Welcome to episode 12, and today we're journeying through another series of scenes as Jesus moves nearer to Jerusalem. The event we call Palm Sunday is getting very close, and he's aware of what lies ahead. We are going up to Jerusalem, and everything that is written by the prophets about the Son of Man will be fulfilled. He will be delivered over to the Gentiles. They will mock him, insult him, and spit on him. They will flog him and kill him. On the third day, he will rise again. But that's not the only thing that Jesus knows is coming, as we find in chapter 17, verses 20 to 27. You may remember from 2 weeks ago how Jesus claims that history as we know it will end with his return in glory and the day of judgment. Now, for a long time, and I mean centuries, although it's escalated in recent years, people have made predictions as to when this is going to happen. But Jesus specifically said in another place, "But about the day or hour, no one knows." But he did give some information about it. And here in Luke, he starts with some clarifications. First of all, in answer to the question posed in verse 17 as to when the kingdom would come, Jesus answered that it's already here and growing, even though there is a future day of fullness and completion. So now is the time to think about it. Don't delay until some future day. In verses 22 to 23, he warns that people will claim they are Jesus returned. Oh boy, has this been true. Self-proclaimed messiahs appear and vanish with historical regularity. So how will we know the real thing? Well, in verse 24, the basic answer is, oh, you'll know all right. It's going to be apparent at an unfakeable global level. So if it's not on an epic scale lighting the skies of the world, it's not him, which is a helpful rule of thumb against imposters and their cults. Jesus says, don't go and look, don't follow them. Well, he should know he's Jesus. And then verses 26 to 37, with regards to that day, you don't know the time, but be ready. Chapter 18. Coming back to the kingdom right now, Jesus talks about how someone enters it, how you get into the kingdom. In verses 9 through to 14, we have the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. And here Jesus teaches that the kingdom is not entered by those who judge themselves to be above average in some kind of league table of goodness. Rather, it's those with an awareness of sin and a repentant heart. It's not about exterior show, but inner reality. It's not about saving yourself, but depending on God's mercy. Then in verses 15 to 17 is the famous occasion when Jesus, in older English, says, "Suffer the little children to come unto me." And the point he derives is that we enter the kingdom through childlike acceptance of his gift. Try this comparison. When someone does a favour for you, the average adult will respond, "Oh, thank you, let me repay you." But when someone gives something nice to a child, they say, "Thanks," and grab it. Kids recognise a gift when they see it. They know what to do. Going back to the Pharisee, he was trying to pay for salvation, but the tax collector knew that he couldn't, and he took the gift. In verses 18 to 30, Jesus meets the rich young ruler, and we learn that if we want to enter the kingdom, then we have to let go of anything that's stopping us. The one thing needed to receive a gift is empty hands. But this young man just couldn't let go of what was filling them. In chapter 19, we find all this played out in the story of Zacchaeus, who was a tax collector, which meant he was well off but despised. He's aware that something is missing from his life and seems to instinctively know that Jesus may have the answer, and he's going to do anything to get to him, even if that means letting go of status and pride and climbing trees. Zacchaeus joyfully accepts Christ and his message with childlike faith. And Jesus says in verse 9, "Salvation has come to this house." Now, some fear that if salvation isn't really about being good enough, but is a gift accepted through faith, it will remove a reason for good behaviour. It's a get out of jail card for sin, isn't it? But Zacchaeus shows otherwise. He stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half my possessions to the poor, and if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." Salvation leads to a changed life. Here are some questions that might help you with your reading this week. Question 1. In chapter 17, verses 3 to 4, Jesus teaches an ethic of forgiveness. If a group of people lived this way, what would look different to how things are now? What about within your own family? Question 2. In chapter 19, Jesus teaches that following him and entering the kingdom of God requires not a sufficient amount of good works, but a willingness to come to God for mercy. Not an attempt to buy salvation, but a childlike acceptance of it, and that anything that's getting in the way needs demoting in our life. Is this how you viewed religion before reading Luke? What has stayed the same, and what has changed in your thinking? Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next Friday for our penultimate rough guide to Luke.